and welcome to this recipe for lemon blondies / brownies. I am making it sugar-free. The original recipe came from recipegirl.com, although I have found another identical recipe elsewhere several years ago. I do remember saving that recipe and then just deleting it when I determined that I have an insulin problem. Didn't think I was going to be needing that recipe anymore, but since I found some sugar-free substitutes, I think I will keep making this. You are going to need 1 package of lemon cake mix, assuming you don't want to go sugar-free, because I cannot find any lemon cake mix that is sugar-free in the store. I just went with yellow, and I will tell you a trick to make it taste a little bit less yellow. You're also going to want 1 3-ounce package of lemon Jello. There is sugar-free varieties of that in most stores. I think sometimes even generic will have a sugar-free lemon flavor. It's important that you don't actually make the Jello. You're going to pour the Jello powder into your bowl along with the other ingredients for the recipe. Don't follow the directions on the Jello package, and don't follow the directions on the cake mix package. Never touch you if you hesitated, but you keep looking like you're hungry, babe. So come. This is canola oil. Vegetable oil is also fine. You're going to want 1/2 cup of that added to the bowl with the other ingredients. I know what you want, babe. We want the same thing. Scared to love what we couldn't help. Scared to love what we couldn't help. You're going to add 3 eggs if you are using a regular lemon cake mix. If you're using a yellow cake mix because you want the sugar-free option and that's the only flavor available, then you should use an egg substitute. I am using an aquafaba egg replacer here. I had frozen little ice cube tray full of aquafaba, and I'm actually also melted it in the microwave because I don't think it works whenever it's frozen completely. So I'm liquefying it a bit and adding it to my mix as an egg replacer. For aquafaba, 3 tablespoons of aquafaba replaces 1 egg, so you would use 9 tablespoons in this recipe. And the reason I say that you should not use eggs if you're using yellow cake mix is because eggs actually enhance the flavor of yellow cake mix. What you're tasting in a from scratch recipe of yellow cake mix is the egg flavor, specifically the yolk. So if you need to use yellow cake mix but you don't want the yellow flavor as strong, you're going to want to use an egg replacer because that will minimize the flavoring of the yellow flavor of cake mix. And we all know what yellow cake mix tastes like, right? I mean, that's a definite yellow flavor, right? It's Oh, my aquafaba did not work. The batter is kind of crumbly, so I'm going to try using 1 egg of my cornstarch replacement, which I definitely prefer for eggs over the aquafaba. You use 1 tablespoon of cornstarch to 3 tablespoons of water, mixed together in a small bowl, and then added to the large bowl once you're ready to add the egg itself, if it were an egg. So yeah, that yellow flavor of cake mix, it's like my favorite flavor of cake, yellow. But I don't want it in the lemon brownies as much as I would want it in a regular cake mix. So whisk your cornstarch, or just use the spoon awkwardly like I am, and then add it to the batter if you want to use cornstarch and water as an egg substitute. Alright, so now I have aquafaba plus cornstarch in here as an egg replacer. And the batter is not quite right. It's a little solid. It's more like what cookie batter would be, consistency. And so I'm going to be adding another fake egg, cornstarch and water mixture to see if 2 of those plus the aquafaba that I had added earlier makes it liquidy enough. I don't know if you bake a lot, but if you don't, cookie batter should definitely be more solid where you can pick it up with your hands, it doesn't get all over you. And brownie and cake mix batter definitely needs to be a little bit more liquid. I have made brownie recipes where the batter is fairly solid, and I'm always worried it's not going to come out so great. But as long as you're following that recipe and that's what it ends up being, then you're okay. So it's still not quite thin enough in my opinion. So I'm going to add a third fake egg with cornstarch and water. And I'm realizing that I've added essentially 3 eggs already with the aquafaba plus 2 eggs of cornstarch and water. And it still wasn't thin enough. And I think that has to do with the aquafaba. Like I mentioned before, I had made it a while back and froze it into ice cube trays and divided up into tablespoons and then just left it frozen, which is apparently not how you're supposed to use it. I think it's probably better fresh, and if you can't do it fresh, you should stick to cornstarch and water. So this is more of what I was expecting. It is definitely thin enough to maybe not pour completely liquidy, but it's thick enough and also thin enough that I can't hold it in my hands. So I'm finished with my egg replacer, and we'll be moving on to making the sugar. We're going to first pour the batter into a 9x13 baking dish, and I am spraying canola oil to grease the pan. You can use whatever substitute you like on that. Once you're done with spreading the batter in the pan, bake it at 325 for 25 to 30 minutes. So the original recipe says to use 1 cup of powdered sugar and mix it with a ½ cup of lemon juice. I think that's a bit too much. I'm also going to be making my own powdered sugar. If you have granulated sugar, you can turn it into powdered sugar using a Vitamix or another really powerful blender. That's what I do so that I don't have to keep powdered sugar on hand. It's just one less thing to store in my small kitchen. I'm also going to do half sugar and half sucralose because of my insulin situation. I do not have diabetes, but I have pre-diabetes, which means you almost have diabetes. So I try to lower the sugar that I eat, and I do that just by putting a tiny amount in it mixed with Splenda or sucralose, which has a very unsweet flavor, I will say. So it's just like a slightly less sweet version of all my baked goods when I do sugar substitutes. Once the blondies are out of the oven, take a toothpick and stab repeatedly little holes all over the cake. Sorry, the blondies. You're going to want to go all the way through to the bottom of the blondie itself, so all the way to the bottom of the cake pan. You're making these little holes so that the glaze will soak through the batter. The original recipe calls for half a cup of lemon juice and a whole cup of powdered sugar. I used a half cup of powdered sugar that I made myself and a quarter cup of lemon juice. I do recommend you do this unless you are addicted to sugar and really need it to be sweet, because it was sweet enough, I found, even with my reduced sugar. So I think it'll be fine if you lower the topping. One quarter cup of lemon juice, or a half cup if you are a traditionalist who wants to use the original recipe. Then whisk that together until there are no more sugar lumps. I poured my liquid back into the measuring cup because I thought the spout would make it a lot easier to pour onto the blondies. So remember all the holes we made. They're going to help absorb that liquid to every part of the blondies. And this will be a very moist dessert. I recommend you keep it in the fridge until it's finished being eaten. I think a week or two is about as long as it lasts in the fridge, so keep that in mind. And it does stay pretty liquid, so I don't think it's going to be very good to leave on the counter for that reason. I love making lemon desserts, so if you've got a recipe idea you want me to try, definitely let me know in the comments and I will be glad to do it. This one turned out great. It tasted exactly like the one I used a few years ago, so I think this might be a common recipe out there. And I do like that it's easy. It doesn't involve a lot of recipes that are lemon desserts are like lemon tarts or lemon bars, and it's a different kind of texture to it. I like the cake mix that makes it a lot easier to bake. And you can see it's not falling apart in my hands, but it is moist. So if you like this recipe, please like, share, and subscribe. It does help the channel, and it helps me know what you want to see for the future. Thank you. Have a good one.